So up next, how many of you know growth hacking? Growth hacking, growth hacking. Yeah, it's a pretty fancy word that's being used. So off late, you see so much viral trends going on, right? Witty feed, story pick, a lot of these. So in a very short time, you're actually getting a lot of users. So that's one of the most recent trend. Probably in the Western countries, it has caught up pretty much, but it's still a very new trend, and I think it'll be fantastic to know more about it, right? I'd like to invite Mr. Ernest Sanchez. So Mr. Ernest Sanchez, he's an entrepreneur, he's an investor, he's a senior executive. He's very highly entrepreneurial with over 15 years of experience across all verticals and all the domains. And he has worked internationally. He has done some solid work around growth hacking. He has helped a lot of companies around. So I think he'll be a fantastic person to share more about what is growth hacking and how to go about these things.
Yes.
It's going to be one of the most hottest profession out there in the future. So, check it out.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, August First, for inviting me. It's been, I will try to explain from my experience, all right? From my experience, what are the problems that you can face once growing your startup. So how many of you are in the process of growing your startup, please? Can you? Right? And how many of you did already raise money? Okay, good. there is water in the world, so there is a chance. Okay, so I'm been entrepreneur for about 15 years, and now I'm on the dark side. You can see that I'm on the VC world, but I know how the entrepreneurs will struggle, and how do we struggle when we raise money, when we try to fight against what is the strategy of the venture capitalists and what is the strategy of our own company. What do we think is right? And okay, I'll try to explain a little bit of items. I know that it's quite late and most of you will have hungry, but let me just explain who we are. Okay, we are Entre Capital is a multi-stage venture capital. We invest in countries all around the globe. This is some of the companies from our portfolio. We do not invest on all of them directly. We invest through some other venture capitalists. And you can see here, if this works, all right, some of the companies we invested in, mostly fintech, mostly IoT, especially on mobile payments, scanning, etc. We did some exits, and the company is based in London, Tel Aviv, and Barcelona. I'm from Barcelona, actually. Well, so if this works, okay. So what do we face when growing our startup? So first, every single company wants to raise money to sustain it. But money isn't it all. Isn't it all? I can see this money is the motivation, but not money. Money is not the motivation, actually. The motivation is what we do. We realize, what do we want to get and achieve. Money is just a channel, just a way through that we can use it to get our goals. So what are the questions and actions to be made before growing desperately? Because normally we just think on, okay, let's raise money and grow, let's raise money and grow, let's open new delegations, new companies. What is this for? Do we actually making the things right? So is our strategy, what does it really matters? So, okay, looking ourselves in the mirror always. So, all right. So, do you want me here? So, I'm not that good at stages. All right. So, first question you have to do is: are you a rocket science company? If you are, okay, most of you, do you think you are? And I thought that I was many times. But okay, if you really know that you're a rocket science company, then go, go for the market, go for the money, then try to go fast. But are you struggling with customer acquisitions? Then maybe it's not that rocket science company. Maybe we are paying a lot for customer acquisition, etc. So we have to rethink what we are doing. Then, are our customers, our monthly average users working? Are these the metrics, the economic units that all of you had to pitch with venture capitalists are working? Then you can rethink or you can go. That's one of the main questions you have to do. This is what determines if a company is well accepted from the customers or not. Then, are we successful attracting investors? So what is that? I don't mean fundraising is just about closing rounds. So are we attractive? Do we have opportunities to pitch? Do we have audience when we try to raise money? This is very important. So it'll happen, no matter when, it'll happen. Don't focus all your strengths to raise money because it'll happen. Focus on your strategy, your company, and dedicate the proper time to raise money. Because otherwise you will lose the focus. Then you will miss the focus, you will focus on raising money, and your company, what is your company? What do you do? No, I'm raising money. No, do you own a company? You run a startup. You don't run a business to raise money. Right, so this is one of the things that many of us made a mistakes. And did we reach the 8 tops in our market? Then, okay, it's really necessary to internationalize our company. This is another question. How many of you are operating in more than one city? Okay, more than one country? So do you think it's really necessary to scale to be attractive for a venture capital? Yeah, it is, definitely. But do you think there is no market around us? Because some of the entrepreneurs tend to set up a company, then go for the new markets, and then look that there is opportunities around very close. And I have better to be the main player in your state, country, or city, rather than having one little office here, one little office in China, one little office in the US. Okay, it looks very fancy, very cool, but it doesn't make any sense. You are not leading, you are not selling, you are expending a lot of money. So when growing, that this happens normally. So let me just, right, come on. So if the investors is backing, the investors we have is backing, the investors backing us is pushing to be in other markets, please take a breath and think, where are you? So do you really need to grow? Do you really need to be in other markets? This is quite controversial, I know, because all of the VCs, myself, I'm asking all the time, this is scalable, we can put this in other market, does it make sense? But really, you know, we have enough strength in our locations where we are, we can do it better. So this is one of the main points I just bring to you to have a thought. Secondly, if this happens, I don't know what happened with this. If this happened, the first thing is that we have to know very well the competitive landscape. How many of you, before launching your company, dedicate 30% of, instead of design, instead of product development, on analyzing, on doing benchmark, analyzing the competitors? Yeah. Because this is everything. You know, you will be on a pool full of sharks, and you have to become a shark. You cannot be another kind of fish because you will be eaten. So you have to know where are you going to compete. First of all, this is absolutely necessary. Everyone thinks that, no, I have an amazing product, I can scale, I can go everywhere with that. Yeah, but do you know that in this particular city there is one person, one company that is doing things perfectly better than you, or even a thing that you can have a look on it and follow them up? So benchmark is the key, right? So having money is not enough on that thing. I don't know what's happening with the commander, but all right. Someone is moving my presentation, right? So, what are the internal pain points we should consider? All right, centralized, decentralized, from the regional company. Centric companies are sometimes slow and inefficient. There is no core. There is no core values. What happened when we put everything on one headquarter, and then we have delegations, but they don't know what is the strategy. We have to communicate very well. You know, decentralized companies are, you know, it's challenging. It's really good, but you probably will run like chickens without head. That's one of the things that happens. You know, the country managers used to not to know what is the strategy, where do I have to go? I have just to sell, and then this country is doing that, the other country is doing everything, and then what happened? And you probably will have seen that on many cases. The companies tend to close more of the filials and delegations in other countries. I don't want to refer particularly in any company, but maybe it comes to your mind, more than one, that they just get back to the original position. All right. So the innovation can come from everywhere in your company. So put the value. If you have someone in, let's say, in the United States, and you're working from India, please communicate with them, because you don't know. You don't know, something great can happen from everywhere in your organization. So it's your organization. It's not, this is my organization, this is my delegation outside, this is my filial in, I don't know, in Singapore. And then, if I have no communication, no clearly communication with them, what will happen 100% is that this guy or this woman will not know where to go. And we do have this responsibility. So, to conclude, teams makes companies. Good companies attract talent. Talent is everything, all right, it's everything. We do know that. The first thing I'm looking when I see a company, instead of numbers, economic units, everything, all the stuff, market, etc., is people. Who is behind? Who is backing this company? Not just investors. Who is passionate about that? It'll be skilled. If not, you know, it will do it. It will not. So these talents commit to boss the company, and growing is the main guarantee for the VC exit. But, you know, we all know that this will determine failure or success. You and me, and people like me that we are moving on the dark side right now. But thank you so much for your time, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Let's figure out something bigger, how to solve the Indian startup challenge. So I'd like to invite Mr. JAIRAJ Mashru. JAIRAJ, please. So Mr. JAIRAJ Mashru is the founder at Bombay Innovation Group. JAIRAJ builds innovation and entrepreneurial capacities in individuals, organizations, and local economies. He has done extensive research in this space, and he has worked with a lot of clients globally. Some of them include PayPal, Cartoon Network, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, IBM, and you can name them. So he is the best guy to tackle the problem and say how it actually can be solved.
Thanks a lot, Pravin. Good afternoon, Hyderabad. Always wanted to say that. Let's see if this works. I need to turn it on. And there you go. All right. How many of you guys are feeling sleepy right now? Yeah? Okay. Can we do a quick exercise with me? Yeah? Can we all get up? Get up. All right? All of us get up. All right. We're going to try and synchronize our claps. Okay? Some of you may have done this before. It's a very simple exercise. Just go with it. Okay? Do what I do. All right? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, come on. That's terrible. Terrible. You guys can do better. All right? Let's give it a couple of more tries. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now that's what I'm talking about, August Fest. This is good. Feel free to swap seats and things like that. Physical activity kind of helps beat the sleep away in the afternoon, but it also boosts creativity. It's like scientifically proven now. So I want to talk about solving the Indian startup challenge. Any startups here facing any challenge? Yeah? 1, 2 maybe? That's it? The rest of you are not facing a challenge? I'm sure you are. So I was thinking about what exactly is the Indian startup challenge. There's a lot of talk going on. The world is waiting for the Indian startups to arrive. People criticize that there's too many startups in India that are just copying what successful startups have done in other countries. But at the same time, a few days ago, there was an article about 7 unicorns coming out of India already, and that's the same as the UK, which is a much more developed nation. So there's stories on both sides, but I took a different perspective. I wanted to look at it as an external point of view. And since morning, we've been talking a lot about this startup ecosystem. So that's one external perspective, saying, okay, there's challenges in the startup ecosystem. But then there's also an internal perspective. And in my line of work as an innovation consultant, I work a lot with startups. I've had a chance to speak to a variety of a wide range of entrepreneurs, ranging in age, verticals, the stage in which their startup is. And I also find that there are challenges internally in the startup ecosystem, which is within the entrepreneur. So I want to talk about these two things today. First, let's understand what is a startup ecosystem. We've been hearing about this since morning. It's a very fuzzy and broadly defined term, quite often loosely used and misunderstood by many people. To me, a startup ecosystem is an ecosystem that helps accelerate creative entrepreneurship. And how does that work? It accelerates creative entrepreneurship. So how does it work? Someone with a great idea needs to find cheap capital, creative talent, rapidly flexible infrastructure, and all of these things need to come together. You need expertise, you need guidance, you need VCs, all of these different things that we know that comprise of the ecosystem. But ultimately it comes down to 3 things. You need an idea, you need talent, and you need capital. And the 3 things need to meet and quickly experiment and convert that experiment into a venture. If the experiment fails, that's fine, because a failure will create room for those resources to be deployed to another experiment. This is exactly what happens in ecosystems around the world. In the last few years, I've spent studying what made other ecosystems in other places like the Silicon Valley and many other cities around the world. How does the ecosystem come together, and how does it become effective for the startup? The other thing that happens is you need physical assets like infrastructure, office space, manufacturing capacity, those kinds of physical assets. You need economic assets, which are your investors. The startup itself is an economic asset, the businesses that are involved. And then you need networking assets, such as the August Fest, where knowledge is shared, contacts are made, and collaborations are sparked. So these kinds of things is what an ecosystem is comprised of. And I recently found a very nice framework for it. There's a wonderful book by a couple of VCs who have now started advising cities and countries on how to build these ecosystems. It's called the Rainforest. And I'd like to share this framework from the Rainforest, which is right here. Yep. No? Where should I be pointing this? There you go. So is this somewhat readable to the guys in the back? In case you can't, it's basically a hodgepodge of all these different things that I just listed, from idea to money to talent to mentorship to government support to tools and technologies, industry organizations, real estate and infrastructure, all of these different things. And you can see that everything is connecting to everything. That is essentially a robust, thriving ecosystem. And yes, okay, in India, we may not have an ecosystem that is fully developed. there are some missing pieces, and even the pieces that have been developed may not be as robust. But we do have somewhat of an ecosystem. And we don't always wait for, at least as entrepreneurs, we don't always wait for somebody to build an ecosystem for us. We start with what we have, we build on top of it, we fill the gaps with whatever we can, and then we get going, right? So this is the ecosystem piece. I just wanted to shed some light on the external environment. There's a lot more I can talk about it, but today what I really want to focus on is the second part, which is the internal piece, the Indian Startup Challenge with the entrepreneur himself or herself. To me, the entrepreneurs that I have had the chance to interact with are very often driven by the same 2 or 3 motivation factors. Any of the entrepreneurs and startups in the room, I'd like you to stand up when I ask you, how many of you want to be the unicorn? How many of you are in a startup and you think you're going to be the unicorn? That's your goal. You're going to make your startup the unicorn. Yeah? Nobody? Stay standing. You're standing. 1, 2, couple, yeah, 3, 4, 5. That's it. In this whole room, only 5 of you want your startup to become a unicorn? Okay, let's try another one. Stay standing, all of you who are unicorns, please stay standing. How many of you are going to be, how many of you are going to disrupt your industry? Anybody? Any more? Stand up. Stand up. Yeah, a couple more. And then the last question, and stay standing all of you. How many of you have an exit strategy already in mind? Yeah, a few more. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, all of you are wrong. You cannot aim to be the unicorn. You can wish it, you should have that passion, but that is not the goal. Disruption is not the goal. Having an exit even before you started is not the smartest idea. These are all consequences of achieving your goal. Your goal has to be to solve a problem and create value for someone who's willing to shed their very precious money with you for your solution. That is the goal. One of my favorite people in the world actually said this quite well. Life's most persistent and urgent question, always, ever since he said it, even before that, and even today it is true, is what are you doing for others? If you can answer that question with a new idea, you will have a great shot at creating that unicorn, at disrupting something existing, and then you will be able to exit very profitably as well. The goal is to solve the problem, and the goal is to create value for others. Well, okay, that's easy to say. How do you do that? Where do you start? Because the first problem, a lot of people come to me and they say, hey, I have an idea, but I don't know where to begin. That's the first challenge, right, in the startup. It seems like it's a great idea. I've done some research. I don't think anybody else is doing it. But I'm not the business guy. I'm the tech guy. Or even if I am the business guy, I don't have all the knowledge and skills to do this on my own. Where do I begin? Well, the answer is really quite simple. You don't begin with the company or the idea. You begin with the target customer, with the user, right? You begin by studying extreme users. You guys have all seen this kind of a bell curve before. The green stuff on the 2 sides are extreme users. Users who are currently behaving very differently from the typical user of whatever product or service you're talking about. So for example, if I'm a traveler, I'm an extreme traveler because I go to the furthest corners of the earth, or I'm an extreme traveler because I travel all the time. I basically live on a plane. Those are extreme users. Everyone in the middle is going to help you validate your idea, but the guys who are going to tell you what your idea should do, what your business should be about, the new value that you can create, those insights are going to come from the extreme. So study the extreme users, observe them, talk with them, Go and stay with them for a day or two, hang out with them, really understand what is happening in their life, where in the journey is this existing solution breaking down, and that is the opportunity for you to innovate. That becomes the opportunity to come up with a disruptive idea, right? Very simple things, but very often get excited about our ideas and we try to hop, skip and jump through stages and we forget. And then eventually we come up with a me too kind of an idea, or we come up with an idea that doesn't work as well as you thought it would. And for a while you had some success and all of a sudden, customers are not coming back. Those kinds of issues start cropping up. So these are challenges. The very first challenge is where to begin. How many of you guys are, thinking you're going to struggle with fundraising? Yeah, most entrepreneurs will always say, oh, this is going to be a big challenge. I know if this idea works, if my prototype is validated, if the customers are liking it, then I'm going to have to raise some money. Money is important. Money is precious. Asking for some is okay. Asking for a lot might hurt you later on. You've been hearing about this all morning as well. But what I'd really want to help you contrast money with is time, because time is even more valuable than money. It's even more precious than money. And this is what I normally always advise all of the entrepreneurs that I speak with. If you can afford to spend some money and save some time, spend it. It's very simple, but it takes a lot of thinking to figure out how to do it. What's really the kick is that if you can do this for your customer, if you can help your customer spend a little bit of money and save time, then you've really made it. You've really hit gold. So there is a relationship between time and money, and I always recommend save money, save time, spend the money if you have it. If you don't have it, then we can raise some, but what's better than getting a VC to write a blank check for you? It's better to get the customer to already start generating revenues for you. Because if you do that, then the VCs are going to be chasing you instead of you chasing the VC. In the startup world, it's all about pace. It's all about time. If you can do it faster, if you can help people save their time, if you can achieve sales in a shorter period of time, those are all things that are traction, right? We always hear about this word called traction. How many downloads do you have in a month? How many of them are using the app or the website again and again? What time duration is your customer engagement? Those are all traction measurements. And that is when money becomes cheap and time becomes very precious. So time over money. That's the second challenge when it comes to money. It's about time over money, and I would say choose time always. The third challenge is to lead with the need. A lot of times we try to lead with the idea. We try to lead with a really innovative business model. I'm going to build a platform. I'm going to do a lot of different types of marketing integrations with partnerships. Those are all great. But unless and until you are addressing an unmet need of the user, you're not going anywhere. And even beyond an unmet need is the unarticulated need. This is something that Steve Jobs very often says, and a lot of times when we talk about Steve Jobs, we forget this one particular point that he makes, is that the customer doesn't always know what they want, and therefore observing them, you may discover what they may need, because if you ask them, they may not realize and they may not tell you, but if you observe them in their day-to-day life, you will realize that they probably need this. And then when you show it to them, they'll just fall in love with it. That's pretty much repeatedly what Steve Jobs has done, and Apple continues to do. So stop reverse engineering your value for the solution that you've already come up with, saying this is the idea, so here's the value, this is the customer, I'm going to try and pitch it in this way. No, first understand what the customer wants, then come up with the value proposition for it. So yes, innovation is about creativity, but that's step 2. Step 1 is curiosity. You have to have a very high level of curiosity. Any entrepreneur that has ever succeeded, yes, they were passionate, and yes, they were persistent and all of those things, but first and foremost, they were curious. If you don't ask the right question, you won't find the right answer. And therefore, lead with the need. Always ask yourself, even if you're adding a new feature to your product, first start with the need. Is this required? Is this solving a new problem? Is this adding new value? Then it's worth pursuing it and investing your time, money, and effort into it. Yeah? And then last but not least, there is a long journey. Entrepreneurship and startups, they've become very sexy. We hear about the overnight successes, but none of them, I promise you, not a single one of them was an overnight success. They all went through a lot of ups and downs. And one of the things that some of the newer unicorns of the world have done is surrounded themselves in the right kind of environment. Many of them were part of an incubator or an accelerator that provided them support. There's a famous quote which says, "Nothing is ever scary when you have a best friend around." And that's exactly what the role of the ecosystem players is supposed to be. They're supposed to be your best friends. The VCs, yeah, they're sharks. They can be sharks, but they can also be your best friend. Not just because they give you money, but because they can open up the right doors for you. They can provide the right guidance at the right time for you, which is exactly what friends do. Incubators and accelerators are a great place for startups, especially entrepreneurs who are first-time entrepreneurs. Regardless of what background you come with, if you've not gone through this journey once, I would highly recommend find a good accelerator or incubator which has a very good, strong support system, a very diverse panel of mentors available. A lot of other startups from different verticals are in the incubator or accelerator with you, because that sort of diversity, that sort of conversation and collaboration that happens really makes a big difference in the entrepreneurial journey. You don't feel like you're going at it alone. So some of these are basic entrepreneurship level challenges that I've very frequently faced, and I wanted to take this few minutes today to share what I've learned from my journey with you. And obviously we have some time. If there's any of you that have questions, Pravin, where are you? Is it possible for us to do a little Q&A? You're more than happy to come to the stage and ask me a question. If there's a microphone that we can go around, or you can stand up and just ask me a question really loud, I'm more than happy to take a few questions. But in a nutshell, these were the 3 points I really wanted to make. And I'm all yours for another few minutes if you want to ask me some questions. Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. So, how to select a right team member?
Oh, that's a good question. The right team member. Essentially, I think some of the points that many of the other panelists and speakers have made that I would agree with. First and foremost, your passions have to be aligned. If he doesn't care about your business, he's probably not going to be the best team member you have. So first and foremost, the passion needs to be aligned. Secondly, is this team member going to add something new to the organization, either from a capability standpoint or even perhaps a culture standpoint, because both of those are going to become very important very quickly as you start going down this journey. And those would be the first two things. Lastly, I would say perhaps if you can come up with a creative arrangement to say, instead of hiring you full-time right away, which can be expensive sometimes when you find the right person with the right experience, sometimes you can't afford them, their expectations monetary or equity-wise might be too much, then you can perhaps start with an advisory role, consultant role, try it out, is this the right fit, and then move into a more permanent relationship. But if you're not sure if this is the right team member, then take baby steps. But passion, number one, your passions are not aligned, don't even bother. Anyone else? Yeah, please. Yeah, the lady over here in white.
Hello, my name is Parul.
Hi, Parul.
So I want to know, like you say, lead the need, but there are times when your idea is common to a lot of other ideas. When you see that the idea is common to a lot of other ideas. When you see that there's something which you want to provide is already there in the market. So how do you reach the customer, and how do you reach the people who are going to, fund you? Because they say that there are a million other people who are doing that, but you think that you can give a new approach to that. So don't you think it's very difficult to sell that thing?
It can be a little difficult if it's a crowded market. It can be difficult to be the loudest voice and be recognized and be different. But there are many ways to reach out to the extreme users and get them to become your brand advocates. Instead of going to the main target audience, you can start from the adjacent markets as well, and then encroach inside. That's kind of what a lot of times people missed out the fact that Airbnb did. Airbnb wasn't actually in the business the way it is right now. The very first thing they did was literally allowed people to host a guest in the living room. They would take the coffee table aside, put an air bed, and that was it. And they didn't even have an app or a website. There was just a blog. And the kind of users they attracted through that was very different from the customers they have today. So there is an evolutionary journey into achieving or not achieving, but finding the customers that you really want to target. But also, I would say, think about when you think about, yes, I can do it differently and better. Again, Steve Jobs. Everyone keeps quoting him all the time, but Steve Jobs always kept saying that we're not going to do it better than our competitors. We're going to do it differently. And it just so happens that the customer thinks different is also better. So when I say lead with the need, you need to focus on the user to understand what the real need is. And maybe the obvious need at the surface layer, at the surface level, it's very obvious, and that's what all the competition is trying to address. But if you go one level deeper and say, okay, maybe there's a problem that is causing this problem, and that's the one that you first introduce into the market. And then you build the rest of your product or service out. So sometimes the most lucrative opportunity in the value chain is also the most crowded space in the market. It's okay. You can get there in version 2.0. Your version 1.0, you can find the blue ocean where nobody is playing. In the red ocean, all the sharks are killing each other. In the blue ocean, there's nobody swimming. All the big fish are just for you. So start there and then make your way into the mainstream.
Okay.
Anyone else? One last question. Can we take one last?
Yeah.
We have a few
one
minutes.
last question, please. We are running late, so.
Okay.
Hello sir, I'm Neha Batodia and I'm pursuing my first year of MBA from ICFI Business School. Well, my question to you is, I have passion for two things, okay? So once I complete my MBA, I would actually figure out what really the thing I should go for. One is a confectionery and other is jewelry. So both are labor-oriented work, and nowadays, and especially in jewelry industry, the thing is we have shed, you can say a karigar. I don't know what you call it in
artisan. Yeah.
Yes, artisan.
Craftsman.
So
yeah.
you have a shed artisans, and think that there has been challenges when maybe my design or my ideas may be copied by my competitors, because we have a shared artisan. So how do I deal with such challenges?
Well, actually, that's the easy challenge. The real challenge with the karigars or the craftsmen is that they are themselves going to copy your idea. I was once at a photocopy center making some photocopies, and this tailor comes and starts Xeroxing. He wants to photocopy the border of the sari that he has just made for the fashion designer. And I asked him, why is he, because I never saw somebody, trying to photocopy an actual sari. Because he did the work, why does he need a photocopier? Well, turns out he was building a library of these designs because eventually he wanted to start his own brand label. So there's this thing in contract manufacturers eventually become brands themselves, like HTC many years ago used to make components for Apple, Samsung and everyone. Now today they have their own brand. There are many cases like this in a variety of industries. So yes, competition and copycats will always be around. Two simple or two very quick things that I can tell you, and we can talk offline more about this. try to stay one step ahead of the market. That's always good for everyone. It's good for you too. It keeps you ahead of everyone. It keeps you innovating all the time. Your customers will love you for it. But two, perhaps you can look at, instead of a labor-oriented solution, introduce tech in some way which can actually have a more proprietary nature, and it will also help you scale, which is less labor-intensive and more rapid. And the VCs will love you for that. Yeah, good luck in your program. All right, thanks a lot. I'm around. Thank you. I've very generously put my email over there, so please don't spam me. But if you do have some genuine questions, I'm always available to help. Enjoy the rest of the August Fest. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Jairaj.
Thank you.